Thank you. Anybody who would like to step up to the microphone and offer public comment, you're welcome to do so at this time.
Jennifer Andrews with the City of Waukesha. Just as you saw, there are several areas that you're proposing land use changes in your comp plan. And those areas are in extraterritorial zoning as established by the City of Waukesha earlier in November. We would suggest that the town and the city have conversations over the next several months or year to determine the final zoning for those properties before you make land use changes to your comp plan, so that it's consistent with whatever agreement the town and the city reach on those areas.
Thank you. Who else would like to comment?
Captain Piala, can you go back to the southwest? Go all the way close to where the border is near Genesee. Now, are you including, okay, you're including all the, okay, that's all I needed to see. I didn't see it. You're coming off of Green Country. So all that land is red commercial all the way to the Genesee border?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And that most of that exists already. We're only changing a little bit to the east to add to the commercial category.
To add to the commercial areas.
Next speaker. Please come forward.
Terry Ward, Chestnut Trail. Could I see 164 and Glendale Road
Sure can.
again? So I'm on Chestnut Trail. In blue is the church,
Correct.
the Bible church. And down lower is that the disputed land that Big Ben wanted to go annex a while
Yes.
back. And is that just sitting there? No one, somebody owns it.
It's owned, but it's currently vacant, right?
Hmm?
It's owned, but currently vacant.
Right, okay. And right of Glendale Road, the ballpark, right? The indoor baseball thing?
To the north of Glendale? Correct.
Right, okay. And you want to extend that?
This is not being changed. So the red that you see here on the map all exists as mixed use and commercial.
Okay,
And so mixed use is being extended to the west, or being proposed to be extended to the west of that.
so the ballpark could go further west if they wanted?
If they owned it, sure.
Okay,
And it was approved by the town.
right. Okay, thank you.
Sandy Hamm, Milky Way Road. Not in my backyard is what he wants to know about Glendale Road. I want to know about Sunset and Les Paul. Earlier in your conversation, Sean, you mentioned something about that intersection, but then I didn't see anything on the map being proposed for that. Can you go back to where that is?
I'm sorry, just Sunset and Les Paul?
Yeah, maybe you misspoke. Maybe you meant Racine and Les Paul. I don't know, because there were changes on Racine and Les Paul.
Yeah, Racine and
You
Les
said
Paul
Sunset.
there was, and so maybe I did misspeak there.
Okay,
Because
because I didn't understand where with the Speedway
yeah.
and, you know,
Nothing is being proposed no changes at Sunset and Les Paul.
okay. I've spoken before that I have a general opposition to mixed use. I don't think as I said before, I think the flexibility is for developers, and I don't think the side of it that says, with some limitations or with being careful, I think that it just opens the door, and I can see its use in a few places, but, you probably have reduced quite a bit of it from what you presented the first time, I'm not sure. I tried to breeze through the 100+ pages of this document, didn't get to complete it. But, I would rather see the town define what they want in a plan rather than leaving the plan just with all these things that just say, well, we don't really know what we're going to do here, so we'll just call it mixed use. That's my opinion and share that with you folks. Thank you very much.
Okay, who else would like to speak? Come forward, please.
Betty Paget, South 57 West 22641 Woodside Court. I find it very interesting that the city has the presumption to come in here and tell us what to do when we cannot go to the city and tell them what to do.
Thank you. Who else?
Sandy, I had one more comment that was really the first comment. You know, looking at this map and not having had time to review it, this is a public hearing that I would like to see it adjourned to a later date to give residents a time to look at all of these changes and form opinions on them. I wouldn't be ready to make a decision on this tonight. Thank you.
One more speaker coming up.
Roger Adams, South 41, West 27657, Honey Acres Court. Sean, could you look up at that, over by Highway 59, Green Country, Rose Glen School? I need a clarification on that. Okay, yeah, right there, where it says COM. You got commercial, okay? That's all residential on Brook Hill Road on either side.
It is.
And you've got Rose Glen School essentially right where you got, right to the left of commercial. And I'm just wondering, how is that to be considered a location for commercial?
Well, so the school is blue, right? So the school is the blue property here.
Okay.
And the nursery is in red here.
Right.
And so, as you mentioned, there are homes on both sides of Brook Hill Drive, and those are still, we're not touching those. Piala's operation, they own these properties here, down below, they own this here, and some of this, they don't own the two residences here.
Oh, okay.
So there are two properties here that are planned for commercial, that can go on being residential as long as they want to, but have the opportunity to be converted to commercial in the future at some point because of the nature of this, because they're sandwiched in between. They basically would be islands there in between these uses. And so just for consistency across the board, they would also have the opportunity to be commercial at some point.
I see. I can't see anybody besides Piala's as owning that because of where it's at. But when you say commercial, I take a more general use of the term, such as putting in something like a gas, something commercial, and it wouldn't make any sense to see that done with anything except, with retail business or any other business except something more along the lines that Piala's is doing. So thank you for the clarification.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
Betsy Novak, S44W25357, Red Oak Drive. I want to second what Betty Paget said. This is our town. This is for us. We should decide what we're doing. We shouldn't have the city of Waukesha coming in here telling us. And if we want to put a TIF district in, we should be able to do that. Why are we listening to what they want us to do when they take our land? If we look at that and they start annexing all our land, they come in here, they can do that, and they say, well, too bad, this is what we want to do. And then they want us to listen to them when they want to tell us what to do. This is our town, not theirs. Thank you.
Next speaker, please. Members of the Planning Commission or Town Board want to speak during a public hearing? Go ahead.
I'd like some more input if possible on, or some discussion at least on the Glendale Road 164 corridor, if we could focus on that.
I guess I'll come and speak, and mine is a bit more general, but a bit speaks to that, where there's proposed in that area mixed use. I have expressed previously my concern about that mixed use category, and I understand one favorable description of it is it provides flexibility. I think from my perspective, that's also kind of the dangation of it too, if you will. I think it's too loose. I mean, what is to preclude a lot of areas that we have previously identified, because we have limited arterials, really limited opportunities for commercial use and so forth. And I think you pointed that out previously in your presentation. I mean, that definition is so loose with the mixed use. I think that would simply allow somebody to do residential, period, and nothing more, would it not?
Correct.
And that concerns me, because for me, that's just too loose. So when we get to the point of going through a lot of these area by area, I'm likely not. I mean, there may be some places where that's appropriate. I think along Sunset or that type of thing may be appropriate, but in some of these other areas and more arterial areas, I probably will not be supportive of a designation of mixed use.
So what might the category be for those properties highlighted?
I guess I would leave them as they are presently, unless there's some good justification for changing them. Anybody else?
As long as we're on this area, the problem is that the market doesn't seem to think that we have it classified correctly. If I'm not mistaken, there's been 3 proposals over the last 15 or 20 years, and they've all been residentially orientated. You know, getting into what the water tables are and all of that, I don't know that that's an appropriate conversation we need to have at this point. That's more about when a particular project comes forward, and, you know, because we're a town, the county gets involved with the, you know, wastewater management and the perk tests, and all of those things happen at that time. But I'm aware of at least 3 projects over the last, I'm not sure if it's 15 or 20 years, that have come to the board that were residentially orientated that seem to be an appropriate use of this land.
What's your definition of resident, though?
I don't know, you'd have to entertain each project as they come along.
The last ones I remember were senior housing, and I believe senior housing 2 times, and townhomes a 3rd time.
Okay, those are residential.
Senior housing's residential?
It could be, depending upon how it's run. I don't know that there was a senior housing complex proposed for this, I don't recall that. But you could be right. You live next door, so you probably know more about it than, your recollection would be better than mine.
I will tell you, in discussions with Waukesha County for the southwest corner that's shown as mixed use, their plan currently has it as suburban density residential. And in discussion with them, they also in the mixed use category, but they are not willing at this time to change the plan to their mixed use category. They want to leave it as residential for now. They would entertain the option at some point when a specific development proposal was made that they thought made sense to convert it, their land use plan to mixed use for something else. But they think, you know, the area is very sensitive in terms of access and other issues that they want to stay put for now, and they'll wait till a specific proposal comes forward as to whether they need to change their plan. So they are maintaining that's a residential site for now.
Yeah, and, you know, my main point is that leaving it as it is, which is commercial office?
It's commercial office right now.
Yeah, commercial office, I mean, there hasn't been any interest in that, for that piece of land. And as far as environmentally, you know, what would you throw on there? A 2 or 3 story office building? I don't know how that has any different impact to the land than a couple of houses. My 2 cents.
Give you my 2 cents. I think we have commercial development to the north of the church now.
Sure.
And I think we should, 164 is a corridor. And at one time, this was considered the next big development for commercial areas between I-43 and Waukesha. So I'd like to keep it that. Mixed uses, you know what I think of mixed uses. I think that opens the door for a lot of problems. And I'd like either make it commercial as it is, or cultural, even if, because it kind of at least narrows it down. But I mean, mixed use to me is just throwing your hands up in the air and wherever the wall lands, it's just, it doesn't make any sense to me anywhere, to be honest with you. I'm not a favor of mixed use. So I would not support that.
Who else would like to talk?
I'll give you a couple cents again. I just started that mixed-use project. I can see density, or suburban density too in there. Keep it residential. I have a problem with residential. I have a problem with major septic systems in an area like that is going to support senior housing. If you want to say that's what was in there, I don't know if it was in there or not, but buildings like that's going to have a big significant septic field. If it fails, we don't have a secondary system here, and I just don't believe it should be in that area. Fields like that in environmental corridors with high groundwater, I think it's just a bad thing for an environment. Period. And
But
I can see putting a few homes in there. I don't have a problem with that, but
Wouldn't that be proved out by the soil testing at the time of the development? I mean, then we would make the same argument about the proposal by the new bypass, which is very, very heavily environmental.
I have some issues over there also.
Aren't we then putting the cart before the horse if we all just sit around and guess what the soil's gonna support?
Oh, I agree with you, but I guess why support something that we're gonna not pass down the road?
Because I don't know that you know that. Have you tested it in the past? I don't know, maybe you did.
So if I could shed a little light on the site. The environmental corridor is green, right? So the site, what we're changing is, there's no corridor within what we're proposing to change. There is some high groundwater on the site, which potentially, depending on topo and fill, could preclude basements on the site in certain areas. And so that limits a certain type of residential development in some cases, but it doesn't mean it can't necessarily be developed. Obviously, it's planned for commercial office right now, and the idea was to put, if you put slabs out there and you put buildings on them, it's developable. You just can't go down into the groundwater. And so whatever happens there isn't going to impact the groundwater one way or the other. If you can't get basements in there, you're not in the basement. And so as development occurs, those things get reviewed. But just the point I really wanted to make is that there is no corridor in this site. It's all to the south and is identified as green. So part of the property, the ownership of the property goes into environmental corridor, but the area relegated to mixed use and any development at all is north of the corridor.
I believe some of that is in wetlands.
Yeah, there are some wetlands. And there's some wetlands down in the south portion of the site here.
I have a suggestion, I'm gonna make it. It's just a suggestion at this point in time, but I really think that we're gonna need to adjourn this public hearing for 3 reasons, not in any particular order. One is the lateness of the hour. I mean, it's 25 to 10. We haven't even started the town board meeting yet. That's one reason. The second reason is there's an awful lot here to digest that I think not only for people in the public, members of the Plan Commission, Town Board, this important stuff. There's so much to digest. And the other, third thing that I had to it, I heard invitation, thank you from Jennifer Andrews there, to engage in some cooperative discussion on some areas with the city. We recognize that you have asserted your extraterritorial zoning authority or jurisdiction. I absolutely think that that would be great. I'm but one member of the town board here, but I'd like to say let's sit down sooner rather than later and see if we can cooperate and to come to some conclusions on some of the land use and land planning. So others might not support my point of view, but I've got 3 reasons I absolutely think that this public hearing needs to be adjourned. And I don't want to cut anybody off who wants to speak to it tonight. That's not the purpose, but I'd ask you consider those three points of view. So
I'm gonna ask one more thing. One of the people out here said we should maybe table the public hearing until, and let people have a little more time to think about it and come back maybe next time and have.
that's in essence what I'm suggesting, is to adjourn this to the 9th of January.
Oh, I thought you were gonna just close it. I thought you meant.
No,
close it.
maybe I'm playing with words a bit here.
All right.
Attorney Macy can help us out, but in this instance, to adjourn it means to continue it or table it. I mean, it's essentially one and the same. The
Motion
truth.
to adjourn to a date and time.
Yeah, so you and I are on the same page on that.
I just want the folks here to be clear, because we're talking a lot about communication. I mean, this is a multi-step process that we started when, Sean?
Early summer, I believe.
I'm sorry?
Early summer?
Early summer, yeah, so maybe late May, June. And it's been on the town board agenda twice before, I think, right?
Had multiple times on the Plan Commission board.
Yeah, it's been before the plan commission several times. This is the first public hearing that we've had. But this has been a multi-month, multi-meeting process that we've gone through to make these changes. So this isn't the first time that the information is being moved out.
Okay.
Do you need a motion to adjourn, or where are we here with this?
Well, I guess thoughts of other people. Yeah, I mean, we could do that, or we could adjourn this and pick it up next month if that gives people time to digest the 12th of December.
I would move to adjourn till next month.
Okay.
Date and time, sir.
Yeah, well, it's December 12th.
Is that?
I believe is that the next meeting date, at 6:30?
Yeah.
All right, I'll second the motion, discussion. And I guess that we should ask a question on that. This would be participation by both the town board and the town plan commission. Is that appropriate, or we simply poll the group and make a decision, or what, in terms of during the public hearing?
Oh, he's got a motion second.
Okay, and we can have plan commission members and town board members both vote. Everybody comfortable with that? Okay, further discussion. Do we understand the motion in the second? It's basically to adjourn public hearing and continue it on December 12th at 6:30.
I'm not sure if this is appropriate this time, but I'll just ask, and we maybe put this in there, but I know we've been discussing the mixed use, and some are favorable, some aren't. I guess I wouldn't mind having a workshop. I think I brought it up once before, but I'd bring it up again, and I think it's a good opportunity for us to, be all on the same page, I guess, if that's really something that we can do.
The only thing I would say, and Attorney Mason might jump in on it, in as much as we've actually opened this as a public hearing, I think it probably needs to continue as a public hearing. In this practical matter, it might be essence. You can call it a workshop if you want, but I think we need to continue the public hearing. Do you have a different point of view?
Yes, unless you want to pay to renotice it, which I would recommend you spend the money to close it and start all over again.
No. So, Supervisor, is that okay? I mean, if we do it,
I understand.
It would, I think, in essence, have the effect of being a workshop, if you want to call it such. Okay. Any other discussion? There's a motion to adjourn use the word continue if you want, this public hearing on December 12th at 6:30 PM. Everybody understands the motion. All Plan Commission and Town Board members can vote, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Right, that passes unanimously.